On a freezing night in January 1905, deep beneath the streets of New York City, a man stood alone inside a dimly lit tunnel, staring at a machine no one believed could exist. Within hours, his discovery would shake the foundations of American industry, and yet, for nearly a century, his name would be erased from history. The story begins long before that night, long before the tunnels, the machines, and the quiet betrayal that would follow. In the late 1800s, America was changing at a speed no one could fully comprehend. Cities were growing upward with steel and ambition, and downward with tunnels, pipes, and secrets. New York City in particular had become a living organism, breathing, expanding, and consuming everything in its path. Among the thousands of immigrants who arrived during this time was a young man named Elias Verner. Elias was not remarkable at first glance. He was quiet, thin, and carried with him a worn leather notebook filled with sketches no one understood. Born in a small town in Eastern Europe, he had grown up watching his father repair broken farm tools with ingenuity that bordered on genius. Elias inherited that same curiosity, but instead of fixing things, he wanted to build what had never existed. When he arrived in America at the age of 19, he had nothing except that notebook and a belief, an unshakable belief that energy itself could be controlled in ways no one had yet imagined. At the time, electricity was still a relatively new force in the world. While great minds were racing to harness it for lighting and industry, Elias was obsessed with a different idea: wireless energy transfer on a massive scale. People laughed when he spoke about it. "How will you send power through the air?" they would ask. Elias would simply smile and reply, "The same way lightning travels across the sky." But dreams do not pay for food, and theories do not keep a man warm in winter. So Elias found work wherever he could, first as a laborer, then as a mechanic, and eventually as a technician assisting engineers in the growing subway construction projects beneath Manhattan. It was there, underground, surrounded by the hum of machinery and the smell of damp earth, that Elias began to see something others could not. The tunnels were more than transportation routes, they were perfect channels for energy. While others focused on building tracks and stations, Elias studied the behavior of electrical currents within confined spaces. He noticed patterns, fluctuations, and strange resonances that seemed almost alive. At night, after long shifts, he would return to his small rented room and fill page after page of his notebook with calculations and sketches. Years passed. Elias remained largely unnoticed, just another worker in a city of millions. But beneath that anonymity, something extraordinary was taking shape. In 1898, Elias constructed his first prototype. It was crude, a collection of coils, copper wires, and a modified generator housed inside a wooden frame. He set it up in a forgotten section of an unfinished tunnel and connected it to a small power source. When he activated the device, something remarkable happened. A light bulb placed several feet away, without any direct connection, flickered, then glowed steadily. Elias stared at it, his heart pounding. He had done it. Electricity, moving through space without wires. But the world was not ready to believe him. When he tried to present his work to engineers and supervisors, he was dismissed. Some accused him of fraud, others of misunderstanding basic principles. A few simply ignored him entirely. "Stick to your job," one supervisor told him. "This isn't science, it's fantasy." For a time, Elias considered giving up. But then something unexpected happened. One evening, as he was working alone, a man approached him in the tunnel. He was well dressed, clearly not a laborer, and carried himself with quiet authority. "I've been watching you," the man said. Elias froze, unsure how to respond. "You're not like the others. You see patterns where they see dirt." The man introduced himself as Charles Whitaker, an investor with interests in infrastructure and emerging technologies.
Whitaker had heard rumors, whispers among workers about a man who could light bulbs without wires. Intrigued, he had come to see it for himself. Elias hesitated at first, but eventually agreed to demonstrate his prototype. As the bulb lit up once more, Whitaker's expression changed. He was no longer curious, he was captivated. This, Whitaker said slowly, could change everything. What followed was a partnership that would alter the course of Elias's life and, though few would ever know it, the future of energy itself. Whitaker provided funding, resources, and access to better equipment. For the first time, Elias was able to work without constant financial pressure. They moved operations deeper underground into a series of abandoned tunnels that Whitaker secretly acquired. There, hidden from public view, Elias began building a much larger system. His vision was ambitious, a network capable of transmitting energy across entire sections of the city without wires. Months turned into years. The machine grew in complexity, massive coils, rotating mechanisms, and carefully calibrated components that required precision beyond anything Elias had ever attempted. And yet, it worked. By 1904, Elias had achieved something that seemed impossible. He could power multiple devices across significant distances without direct connections. Whitaker saw the potential immediately, but where Elias saw a revolution for humanity, Whitaker saw profit. "You don't understand," Whitaker told him one night. "If this is released freely, it will disrupt every industry in existence." "That's the point," Elias replied. "Energy should be accessible to everyone." Whitaker shook his head. "No, controlled energy is power. Unlimited energy, that's chaos." Their partnership began to fracture. Elias wanted to present his work publicly, to share it with scientists and engineers. Whitaker insisted on secrecy, arguing that the technology needed to be managed. The tension between them grew with each passing day. Then came that night in January 1905. Elias had made a decision. He would demonstrate the full system, publicly if necessary. He arrived at the underground facility late, carrying his notebook and a sense of urgency he could not ignore. But something was wrong. The air felt different. The machines were silent. As he moved deeper into the tunnel, he saw figures, men he did not recognize, dismantling parts of the system. "What are you doing?" Elias shouted. The men ignored him. Then Whitaker stepped forward from the shadows. "It's over, Elias," Whitaker said calmly. "You can't do this. This isn't yours." Whitaker's expression remained unchanged. "I funded it. I protected it. And now I'm securing it." "For what?" Elias demanded. "For the future, just not the one you imagined." Elias realized in that moment that everything he had built was being taken from him. "People deserve this," he said, his voice trembling. Whitaker sighed. "People deserve stability, and stability requires control." The machines were dismantled piece by piece. Elias tried to intervene, but he was restrained. His notebook was taken. His work, years of it, was erased in a matter of hours. By morning, the underground facility was empty. No evidence remained. Elias was dismissed from his position shortly thereafter, with no explanation. He tried to speak out, but without proof, his claims were dismissed as delusion. Over time, his name faded into obscurity. He spent the rest of his life working small jobs, occasionally filling new notebooks with ideas no one would ever see. He died in 1922, alone and largely forgotten. But the story does not end there. Decades later, during routine maintenance work in the New York subway system, workers discovered something unusual: a sealed section of tunnel, one that did not appear on any official maps. Inside, they found remnants of a structure, corroded metal, fragments of coils, and traces of a design that did not match any known technology of the time. Among the debris was a single object, a leather notebook. Most of its pages were damaged beyond recognition, but a few remained intact. They contained sketches, complex, precise, and far ahead of their time. Engineers who examined them were baffled. "This doesn't make sense," one engineer said. "Not for that era." The discovery was quietly documented, then archived. No public announcement was made. The notebook disappeared into storage, its significance largely ignored. But among those who studied it, a question lingered. What if Elias Verner had been right? What if, hidden beneath the streets of New York, a forgotten inventor had already unlocked a form of energy the world was still struggling to understand? Even today, some researchers believe that fragments of his ideas